Hello, and welcome to you wherever in the world you're watching this right now. Our theme is the power of gratitude. Have you ever thought of gratitude in terms of power? Well, I invite you to look at this secret of spiritual living and how it can help us in our daily personal spiritual adventure. Because this is a soul adventure seminar, and it can help sharpen the tools for living a creative spiritual life. There are many insights that you can gain, and there's countless more in the teachings of Eckankar if you'd like to look further. Our spiritual tool that we're looking at is gratitude, because this is the beginning of the year of Thanksgiving. And it is one of a cycle of 12 spiritual years, and each one embodies a secret to spiritual living. And for the year of Thanksgiving, that secret is the power of gratitude. And our highlight will be listening to the spiritual leader of Eckankar, Sri Harold Klemp. The Eckankar lexicon says that gratitude is the secret of love. I know in my family, in the personal love that we share, this deep love, I find that it most often is in the little things that we do together and do for each other. Would God's love be any different? I grew up in a very small town, and in the summers there wasn't much to do, so we would play baseball in a vacant lot nearby with our friends. When we got older, we would play Little League baseball. But in this small town, the only ball field we had was really just a very rough dirt field with some bases. And it was very interesting to play because if a ball was hit towards me and it was coming right to my glove, it might at the last minute hit a piece of dirt and go flying a different direction. Instead of hitting my glove, it might even hit me. It was very challenging. And to play took a lot of courage and it took a lot of flexibility. But I'm really grateful for this experience that I had because it showed me a bigger lesson in life. Because life itself is like this ball game, isn't it? It's headed one way and we're just going along with it, and all of a sudden it takes a bounce and goes a very different direction. Certainly, I would say right now, life has taken a surprising change, a surprising challenge for us. For many people, it's very difficult and very challenging. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of flexibility. Well, I've found that gratitude helps me to handle whatever life hits my way. And why? Because it helps me to know that love knows the way. And to find that there's always a blessing from that bad bounce. There's always a blessing. It may take a while to understand it and to see it. But eventually, I will almost always realize that it wasn't a bad bounce at all. It was an experience to learn love. I've always wanted to vastly expand my spiritual adventure of life. But even more, I wanted to understand what this is about. And I found in Eckankar that dreams are made just for that. Because they are real experiences in real places in the inner worlds, to give me more opportunities to learn love. But even better, there's a spiritual guide to help me in my dreams. He's known as the Dream Master, and he's the inner side of the spiritual leader of Eckankar, Sri Harold Klemp. So here's an example. So in this dream, I'm standing out on this balcony of a very large building, and there's a courtyard below, and as I look down, there's people coming and going. And around the outside of this courtyard is a very tall brick wall. But I'm looking at it and something doesn't seem right. And I realized, I think that wall is built upside down. How strange. So I'm thinking about this when a man comes up beside me and we're looking at it, and he turns and he says, "So you see that the wall is upside down, right?" And I said, "I knew it. It really is true." And he said, "The architect built it that way." And then I woke up. Well, I realized right away that this man was an Eck master. There are many, many Eck masters of all nationalities and genders who help us in our dreams and help us in our daily life and our spiritual life. And what I learned from this very real experience was to trust my own spiritual eyes, even when truth looks different and what other people say. After all, who would build a wall upside down? Well, the architect did, and in this case, it was the dream master. And he had given me a gift of perspective. For sometimes on my spiritual journey, I found that my walls of understanding, what I see as truth, can change. And what I thought was right side up suddenly is upside down. And that's okay because it got me where I needed to be. But I can now see things in a new way. And I'm so very grateful for these insights that I get in Eckankar. Because there's a secret about gratitude. It's that my heart can open to see that change can really be love. And in so doing, I can soar to a new viewpoint. Soar like a bird. Well, the bird reminds me that I've been learning about the American condor. It's the largest flying bird in all of North America. And it's so large that from the tip of one wing to the other is almost 10 feet wide. That's over 3 meters. And they can be seen flying so high in the air, as high as 4,500 meters or 15,000 feet. And this is so high that it's not unusual that they've been mistaken for a small airplane. But they fly so gracefully, and this is because their bodies were designed for gliding and not flapping like most birds. So they're very graceful. And they've been known to go for miles without ever flapping their wing once, just soaring, soaring. Well, spiritually, we too are made for soaring. But what keeps us from doing this? What stops us? Well, for me, I found usually it's because my heart is closed to love. But when I fill my heart with gratitude, it allows me to begin to open that door of love. And little by little, I can open that door until suddenly I'm able to fly again, to soar like the condor on the air currents. For in fact, the Holy Spirit, the light and sound of God, is the wind from God. It's a current of love that uplifts us so we can soar like the condor. And when I live in harmony with gratitude, it allows me to better handle the challenges that come, to handle the difficulties with more grace. So here's a secret to spiritual living. The power of gratitude is the power of grace. I can overcome life's obstacles not through force, but through divine love. I can recognize the gifts behind all experiences. Well, some gifts are really easy to recognize. We just became grandparents. And for a while, this little soul was just learning what this body is all about. There's a lot of sleeping and eating, just trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? And I was grateful even for this because it was beautiful to recognize again this joy of adventure, of finding out what life is about, what my mission is. And then one day she began to recognize me. And by her expression and what she said, it was almost like I could hear her say clearly, she said, I know your face. I know this love that you're giving me. I know you as soul. And then she smiled and began to wiggle. And this level of gratitude in my heart took a whole new level. Well, as I watched her in this recognition, it reminded me of another time in my life, a time of recognition. I had just come into the teachings of Eckankar many years ago, and I was at a seminar similar to an event like this. It was my first time. And I listened to the speakers talk about their gratitude for the teachings of Eckankar, and especially for all the help that they had received from the Mahanta, the living Ek Master. And as they talked, I began to recognize something. Something inside, this truth began to open up. And as I listened, I suddenly realized that I know the Mahanta's face. I know the Mahanta's love that's coming to me. I know the Mahanta as soul. But the best part was that I began to recognize that I had had this all of my life, way before Ekankar. Anytime a teacher came into my life, whether it was art teacher, a music teacher, whatever, they were there to help me take my next step. And I began to see that this was the Mahanta. And even in the very darkest of times, the times when I didn't know how I could possibly go on, I did go on. And it was because all along there was some little guidance, some little truth that was helping me take the next step. And I realized that this was the Mahanta and his love. I'm so grateful to be able to recognize this gift. Because for me, gratitude is an art. A highlight of my week is to read the colorful funnies. I've always called them the funnies. They're the comics in the Sunday paper. And to me, a good cartoon is love in action, because a smile or a laugh can actually heal or uplift. And I marvel how a cartoonist can live a life just like I do, have similar experiences, but yet somehow every day find something funny, something humorous in it. And this is another secret of gratitude, because being grateful is an art just like drawing cartoons. When we observe daily life, same life that everyone lives, we come to learn and to find these myriads of ways that we can become grateful in every day. And like we might ask the cartoonist, so how do you find humor every day in life? People might ask us, how do you find balance and joy when everything's going on like this? Well, it's simple. It's the power of gratitude. With gratitude, we can become a beacon of love and light. My brother Gary is 3 years younger than I am, but as we get older, apparently we're beginning to look more like each other. Maybe it's because our hair color is the same now, gray. But people do see us and think we're each other. He still, until recently, lived in the same small town where we grew up. And I didn't get there very often, but when I did, this thing would happen. I would pass someone on the street, and as we walked by each other, they would look over and think I was my brother, and they would say, "Hi, Gary, how you doing?" So I would mumble a little hello, and then would go on. And then later, Gary would tell me, he said they came up to him and said, "Hey, I saw you the other day. Is everything okay? You hardly even recognized me. You didn't even say hello." Well, as we walked by each other, this person and I, they looked at me and saw reflected my brother. But it got me thinking, what do I reflect? What do people see when they look at me? A keystone of the Ekankar teachings is that our true self is soul. We have these bodies and we have experiences to learn love. But our true self is soul, a spark of God, this pure essence of divine love. And our purpose of life is to learn more about this nature of who we really are and to be an expression of that love in all that we do. So when I meet someone, what do they recognize? Do they see God in expression? Well, in my experience, gratitude can allow this love, this light of who we truly are, to shine more brightly. And the reason is because the mask of ego is down. And when this light shines greater in me, it's easier for others to see that same light within themselves. I'd like to close by sharing one of the many spiritual exercises found in Ekankar. This one is from Sri Harold Klemp in his book, The Spiritual Exercises for the Chariot, Book 1. And it's called simply Giving Thanks. And he describes it like this: it is to simply practice gratitude for all the small things that help sustain existence in this world. I've found for myself that when my attention is on the concerns of the world, or on my heart is closed, that if I try this exercise, it can lift me out of the mud and once again turn my face towards God. It really is that powerful. And here's the reason. When he describes this exercise, Sri Harold says, in the very last sentence, he says, when we say thank you, either aloud or in our heart, it's a way to feel God's love. So the power of gratitude is to feel God's love. Thank you.